Before we get into board comments, is there going to be a report on the sports program this evening? Okay, I'll hold my comments for that. On that, you can expect me to hear a little bit about Title IX, credit recovery, charters, and a couple other things when we get to that, but I'll hold that for that. I do want to call out and compliment the Antelope Valley Press. Julie Drake over there covers quite a few school districts all the way from Rosemont, everything in the Antelope Valley, and I think she's keen on covering like things that a lot of people might not catch. It's always nice to have your kid on the front page of the newspaper, but what I like to read, at least regionally, is that our staff is moving ahead. We have some staff here that's not noisy, that kind of plugs away and gets some things in order, like EL programs and CTE stuff that Tim's been talking about and Mr. Wadsworth has been talking about. But an example was that we literally spent maybe 3 minutes on this item, and it was lead the way curriculum. And there was Paxton Patterson was discussed in a meeting before. So what you've got is you've got a continuum of things from the middle school that develop interest and aptitudes where kids can figure out, I like this, and then it matures into something at the high school. This has been in the making for a while. The TOSAs and staff have worked to kind of meter out what might work. And Vice President Jorgensen and President Jensen were quoted in here of things that show what your initiatives are, your educational initiatives are for the broader school population. And when we start thinking about all the kids, especially Tim, your comments in here captured that there's going to be equity for people regardless of where they go to some fancy school, go to an industry, you're going to be ready to go. So I'm very proud of you for the way you represent the district, and I think we're on the right road to education. I'll be the first to welcome Brianna. Last night was interesting, I think you'll find. I think this board did a good job of making sure that everybody that applied walked out of here with their dignity and got votes. So I appreciate people in the community. You are here now. You are one of us, and you have a very big responsibility. You are 20% of our decision-making process. I'm glad you're here, and congratulations, and it's yours now. So here are my comments. This was related to the superintendent search. I wanted to remind everyone that this is a publicly available document. It's attached to the agenda. When we had that meeting that Saturday morning to interview the candidates, we want to remember that people that apply for jobs, some agencies you work for, if they were to find out you would apply, they would tell you hit the road right now. So it's pretty normal not to leak names or information about different candidates, and sometimes it's pretty easy to figure out who they are just by, if you pull their name off, you might be able to figure out who they are, and then you start asking questions and making phone calls, and the next thing you know, somebody's being told if you want to look for a job, because most superintendents are kind of at will in one way or another. You can call it what it is, and there's a lot of politics that go behind the scenes with that, but I want to call to everyone's attention that it captured in here that I asked, with the pleasure of my colleagues, that the consultant, Dennis, with Leadership Associates, would frame the process up to there, what had happened. I asked him questions about whether or not stakeholders' input was gathered, if that input was incorporated into the job description and the job posting, if there were exceptions to allow applications that really didn't meet the criteria, were those people let in? Were there any applications let in after the cutoff date? Were there any received before the start date? And finally, I asked probably the most important question is, can we expect surprises popping up after someone is hired. Like say, for example, a simple Google search finds out that an employee that you hired has been involved in a couple lawsuits with the same dollar amount down the road as a hypothetical of that. So at the end of the day, and I think there's a movie of this, I asked all those questions. I think somebody else asked a couple, and so it framed the process really well. And I think we're all going to be pleased with the result. I'm certainly pleased with the candidate pool we had. It was a very difficult decision, and we'll be able to hear more about the vision of the superintendent. But that said, I just wanted to point that out. That was captured within the minute, so thank you. Congratulations, number one, Amy Frank. You have always been a good service. I've said this before, having you being the first face that people meet at the door coming into district office. Sometimes people come in, especially pre-COVID, they're not here to give anybody a greeting card. Sometimes they're upset. I really very much like your professionalism, the way you conduct yourself, and your reputation in the community. There is nothing to tie on to you that would make your employment and the way you represent the district questionable. Hillary, I don't know what Tammy's going to do without you. I'm so glad that you're moving into something. I don't think you have to be so friendly now. I think you can be mean to the papers and still be effective. Just congratulations to everybody for your promotions and moving ahead. And I know you're all going to do the district a fine job. What I want to say is when you start looking at a small school district with declining enrollment, I don't think you're going to have somebody that is teaching physiology classes all day long, plant physiology, anatomy, technology literacy, that kind of things. I think you've got a lot of TOSA support going on here and that type of thing. So this doesn't mean that we have an inadequate program or people that aren't capable of teaching these classes. It's just that our enrollment in the core subjects are going to eat up most of those positions. And I think that we're fortunate to have people here that can run this thing. I don't know of anyone, for example, that has an ASB doctorate yearbook degree. So some of this stuff is just a no-brainer, but it's a technicality, so thanks. I will say this, Ms. Lundquist, the public can't see it, but there's a poster right next to our screen where Ms. Lundquist's class is on Channel 5 News. Kendra is on there. You see the look? Yeah, their ratings went through the roof the next day. But that is what Ms. Lundquist does. She puts people on television. Thank you, Mr. Brockway, Mr. Sparks in the background. My comments will be directed at administration. I think everyone, the kids do a fine job being athletes. The site principals are only as good in administrating sports programs as directives, the direction they get from the administration. Be very clear. My direction for the new superintendent is compliances with Title I stuff, EL, Title IX, that type of thing. So it's not my job to figure out who the coach is and things like that. But here's what I will say. I'll start off with this. My comment to administration, we kind of buzzed through what the requirement for coaching is. So I'm reading this to say that if there is someone who's a certificated person who wants to be the coach, they have first shot. And that makes sense to me. Unless all of a sudden you've got a coach that's been coaching for 8 or 9 years, and now suddenly there's a movement to put someone who doesn't have the experience, the relationship, and so now we're just going to replace that coach. I don't think that does something, and I certainly do not want an administrator to be talking to me in closed session about a problem that we have legally, a Title IX problem or something like that, just because we're trying to stack up people's paychecks by adding on another something. I don't think that we want to create an environment of tension between people that are part of the association and people that are coming out of the community to help our kids. I don't want to hear any of that. Please take that one to the bank. Next thing I want to talk about is, I do want to talk about Title IX. Title IX is not some boy that wants to play on the girls' tennis team. That's not the spirit of Title IX. It's gender equity, meaning in some schools, like I grew up in a little town, 5,000 people. Half the people were actually in prison. I wasn't. We had 2,500 people in town. We had an artificial ice arena in 1976. Think about that. She had a huge booster organization. Hockey was huge. But I'm not sure that the girls' volleyball team had the resources. I'm not sure that the girls' softball team had the resources. So when somebody decided to build Vasquez High School, someone was smart enough to apply for Title IX funds. I remember sitting on a board where some of the people on the board did not understand Title IX, and they were actually proposing that we would take the funding after we got it and use it to build the boys a new baseball field and give the girls the old baseball field. No. The attorney is like, no, you don't do that. So here's what this looks like. When you get funding for a facility, you will be audited. It's just a matter of time. They're not going to come to the girls' softball field and see if there's a softball laying there and call that an audit. What they're going to do is they're going to audit your program. The work environment I'm in is highly regulated. Some of others of us have worked in highly regulated things where people come in and do funding audits. Here's what I expect to see. Do all of your teams have equity and access to administration and to resources? There's only one way to show that type of equity. That's you have meetings on a regular basis. Quarterly meetings, for example, would be a good place to start. You have an agendized meeting in which each sport and each coach is listed, give an update, brief update, and be able to say, I need these kind of resources. Here's where we're going. You run down the list. There's a sign-in sheet. If you don't come to the meeting, have somebody come for you. But at the end of the day, when the auditors come in, I want to hand them stacks of meeting agendas that say the girls' softball team was at the meeting. They gave an update. I don't care what team it is. If it's the Tiddlywinks junior varsity team, I want to see these meetings agendized. I want to see minutes, and I want to see people having equity that's measured. That will be my direction to the superintendent. You can see the same things are coming out of us for EL and some other things. I do not want to find myself with my employer looking at the newspaper and seeing that Pfalzgraf is now a defendant in a Title IX case. Please do yourself a favor if you are an administrator in this district. Google school district Title IX settlement. It's shocking. So let's work on making sure that, because I hear a lot in the background, oh, they bypassed me to do this. They went over here to do that. Let's skip all that. Make the agenda, make sure people are there, and make sure that you can show that there has been a real effort for equity. I want to talk about eligibility now, sports eligibility. First off, kids, academic probation is not a means to kick a series of F grades down the road. You have the right to go to your coach. Your coach has the right to go to the athletic director. Your athletic director has the right to go to the principal, who has the right to bring it up in cabinet meeting. I don't think we have the resources we need to support these kids to make them eligible again. Please follow that food chain. Please. Check in with your kids. But kids, if you're getting Fs now, some of us don't understand everything. Some of us come on earlier about our understanding of things. Some of us need practical experience, like the things Tim is talking about. Oh, I get it when I'm welding. I get math when I'm welding, things like that. So take the opportunity and expect that we can help service you, but don't fall behind and take advantage of the programs. I want to talk to you about credit recovery. I give this speech every year. I remember one year, one of the summer school people came in and put applications in our hallway. And on the application, there's a difference between enrolling in a charter school and applying to enroll in a charter school. And this application had things on it like, I certify that my child has never had an IEP or a 504. I went through the roof. You can't do that. If you're going to take on kids, take on all comers, please. If you see that, if you do not let that, as an administrator, do not let those type of documents and that type of discrimination and student sorting and creaming happen in this district. I'm so keen on it, I could teach a college class in it. Next thing, I want you to be aware. Some kids are coming out of 8th grade not understanding your athletic eligibility for high school will hinge back on what you were doing there. So be aware of that. But there's something that happens, and I'll tell you, here's the perfect victim. I am a booster for a sport. Could be, I don't know, gymnastics, could be tennis. I don't have a lot of fundraisers. I've not had fundraisers. I find myself in a position of needing resources. The district's budget is like this, so I need resources. I've got some athletes on my team that are failing. Some charter operators come along and say, hey, we can help you out. You take 1, 2, 3 classes through this school, and we'll send you to gymnastics camp or tennis camp or cheer camp for free. Or maybe we'll give you Disneyland tickets and call it Science Discovery or whatever it is. And if you bring us a lot of kids, you bring us your whole team, you know what? We're going to give you some money back for your booster. Guess what? That's illegal. It's very illegal because you're gifting public funds. And then sometimes when you sign up for this, you don't realize they don't unenroll you. 2 years later, you found out you've been enrolled over here, and these people have been taking the money for several years. Does this sound far-fetched? No, it happened in this district. In fact, there's a gentleman who was in Hawaii who was regionally active in sports, helping kids. Not AYSO, but kind of like that. You've got a regional sports network. And this person was told, hey, sign up, get your athletes that need credit recovery. And they did. And it was a great thing because people were coming back and talking about, oh, hey, our booster got money. Well, guess what? That person was a defendant in the case that this district is now sending out $700 and some thousand to pay back on a $50 million swindle. This happened right in this district. Administrators, listen very carefully. If you are hearing that you have charter operators, they might even be people you know, they might even be people that worked here before. If you see them coming in and you're hearing people talk about free camps, free tickets, and enrollment for credit recovery, it's your responsibility to tell us, please. Thank you. Finally, I'll say this. I have a riddle. Which team in the district crosses all boundaries? Doesn't matter how big the ball is, what shape it is, what uniform you're wearing. What team crosses all those boundaries? Guesses? Is our cheer team ready to go? Do we have an advisor? When do they start? I think they're starting in August, right? They got to be at all these games. Do they have an advisor? Do they have the resources that they need? Are they going to be able to cheer it all? Is everyone trained in the protocols that they might have? Are they ready to go? Crickets. Maybe they're not ready to go. Let's get them ready to go. Staff, understand the board does not give you direction. Please understand that. We're up here throwing ideas at the wall. We all have our own things. We want to introduce sports. We want to improve sports. In my world, if I wanted to introduce a sport, I would be looking at, will one cannibalize the other, things like that. There are all kinds of considerations. Please do not take anything you hear tonight as direction from the board. The board is not here to direct you. The superintendent's office is here to collaborate with you and take input from you for success. So just please do not be confused that just because I say something that you initiate it right away. I'll tell the superintendent's office what I think should happen in my compliances, believe you me, and I think the rest of the board. But do not take direction from this board in building your program. Dr. Sahagian, it's Ken Pfalzgraf. I do have to tell the public that I was the one that wanted to promote internally and try to leave the superintendent's salary or portion thereof on the table. I took that position early. I respect the opinion of my colleagues who encouraged me to go along with the process. I did. I want everyone to know that our superintendent, assistant superintendent team all competed for the position, and in looking at all of the applications and experience and specialties, you remember the second part of your interview, I think probably pretty clearly, and my focus is on federal and state compliances with things that you have a great deal of experience with: special education, equity, Title IX program equity, what has historically been the Title I kids, CTE programs, how to deal with the County Office of Education since you used to work for them and had a good career there. I want to welcome you here, and as we discussed, you have a great support team. There are things going on in this district where we have some things emerging finally that have been sore points with me. I am focused strictly for you on state and federal compliance on most of the most basic things. And I'm impressed that you can take this program there. We've got focus on kids. You're coming into a program where you have Mrs. Shaw and Hassan here that are very capable, and they're willing to support you. I want you to support them, and you're going to put this place on the map academically, sir. Thank you. So a point of clarification is Betty has been a district employee of many years and then comes back and does the mandated training that's necessary to keep our bus program, our transportation program. So this is someone that is familiar with the intrinsities of the district.
I think she's getting our...
There have been ASB-related findings in the district audit for the past several years. The severity of them has decreased dramatically. Now it's maybe we should go to the bank on Monday instead of Wednesday. It's gotten down to that kind of thing. This is where you get stuff popping up that is more about the process. Just because there's a finding doesn't mean anyone was taking any money or anything, but it's kind of like the process. Did you do this? Did you do it democratically? Did you go to the right people through the right channels to do that? And I'll be looking forward to the findings and recommendations, if there are any, and hopefully there are none. We went through a long question and answer period. I think we covered a lot of things. There was a question from the public about money that's being set aside for certain things like charter, settlement, court-related payouts, and things like that. If someone asked a question about that, I want to make sure that everybody loops back and made sure that that person got a call and they fully understand it. Other than that, my questions were all answered last time. Good job, guys. Mr. Mirza, I will say this. You looking and trying to balance the charter mess and the payouts and everything and being very conservative and it's still emerging about what the parameters are. You making low estimates to make sure that we don't run over the actual costs and things. I'll commend you on that. The way you presented the budget was very clear. I'm used to working in an environment where the chief financial officer is going rock and roll with the city council. The city manager does not have to, keep your answers quelched down and things like that. So I very much appreciate you had complete command of the budget. I like it that you don't personalize it. It's just the numbers are what they are, and that you communicate that there should be some things we have to watch out for, things to pull in here. So you did a fine job. Your support staff did a fine job. Thank you. So I think it's a good idea to get consensus. with regards to Mr. Wadsworth's first request, I have personally seen in a work environment someone file a harassment suit, and the ruling was that it was not pervasive, meaning that somebody just said the wrong thing. We all do that. I do that every day. But there was no ill intent, and there was probably some training necessary. The mistake people often make is when you have protected classes, I'm going to go back to a Title IX class. Maybe somebody comes and says, I don't have the access I need. They decide I'm going to take an action. It's found to be that it's not pervasive, but the person who they're questioning kind of cops an attitude and starts giving them a couple of looks. And so many nowadays what start off as harassment claims that are found not to be pervasive and severe but require training suddenly catapult into retaliation claims. And I am very concerned about that when we're working with each other in the workplace. So I number one, will support Mr. Wadsworth's request for documentable online training for anyone that supervises people, real or perceived. So if I'm director of this and I have third parties that I'm dealing with, I want those people, I want everybody to be really clear on this. I don't need legal exposures. Can someone else support the first one, please?